Hello there everybody, welcome to this week's edition of The Verdict. We have an eclectic mix for you, taking you from Dundalk on Monday to Leicester, to Newbury, to Hamilton and finally to the Curragh, where the Irish Oaks was the feature event, and what a winner we had of that. More of that to come, but we're going to start at Dundalk. An interesting performance on Monday afternoon. And it came from River Eden, who was third in the market at 9-4. The favourite was Chicago Black Hawk, a horse who's a little bit iffy in terms of attitude. River Eden wasn't, and we had a clue as to what River Eden was going to be able to do, because courtesy of a barrier trial performance, we knew that this filly was pretty useful. Let's just have a look at the final stages of this barrier trial. Now clearly she's not going to be given a hard time in a barrier trial. I'll pick her out. She's in the yellow colours towards the rear, cantering through this race, and wins very comfortably. Declan McDonough was on board her this day for the barrier trial, and he rode her in the race as well at Dundalk. And this is a really useful bit of information for punters. The Irish Thoroughbred Marketing YouTube page is the place to go, and all the barrier trials are there for you to look at. And if you'd gone there prior to Monday and had a little look at that site, you would have been able to see this race, see what River Eden was able to do in her barrier trial. And you'll agree that she was very impressive. So that prefaced a pretty good performance, and this was a very impressive effort from River Eden. Now the final time is not particularly good, and I'm not sure the form in behind the winner is particularly good. However, it's the manner with which she puts her rivals away that tells us that she's more than useful. Joseph O'Brien trains her. Declan McDonough was once again on board. She's got a lovely inside trip. There she is, just right on the inside. Got a bit of cover as well, and she travelled very strongly through this contest and picked up in fantastic style, even better than she'd done in the barrier trial. She beat Captain Attridge and she beat Alpine Sierra back in third place. Declan McDonough did well. Look where he sat, against the rail. Well, bear in mind he jumped out of stall 9, so he's done well to get a good posse early on. But she's travelling like the wrath of God in behind. She's going so well at this stage that I think she was trading at roundabout odds on now, just as they swing into the home straight. And she picks up tremendously well. She's by Invincible Spirit out of a high chaparral mare. There's quite a bit of stamina on the dam side of the pedigree, which suggests she'll go further than this, but I'm not so sure she wants much more than a mile really, because she's got a high cruising speed and loads of speed. Now just watch this. Everything else, if you look around, is under the cosh. They're all being pushed along. The whip's been drawn on Chicago Black Hawk towards the outside in the white sleeves, and River Eden has not come off the bridle. She's cruised to the front, and then when Declan asks her to go, this race is over in a matter of strides. And we saw in the barrier trial what she was capable of. She's not green at all because she's had that trial, and she surges clear of her rivals. I think she's going to be a pretty useful filly going forward. I'd imagine we might see her in listed company next. Of course, she's got to answer a question about the surface. She obviously handles Dundalk really well. What about turf? Well, we won't know until she runs, but one would suspect, being by Invincible Spirit, that she'll be all right on turf, particularly if there's a little bit of ease in the ground. No entries going forward for River Eden at this stage, but I think Joseph O'Brien will be aiming pretty high with her. She's very good and she's well worth following. Racing TV Tracker, the place to put her. We've got some tracker horses for you as well later on in the programme. So how do we sum up this particular performance at Dundalk on Monday afternoon? Well, it was a surprise, to be honest, but it's a very smart performance from the horse who prefaced this with that barrier trial. River Eden, she's very good, she's very smart. What else can we say? Is she ready for pattern company? I think she probably is actually. Yeah, I think she's ready to go. I think she'll be ready to run in a listed race. The time form speed figure was about 71. So in terms of the clock, it's not very flash at all really, but it was the manner of her victory that was so eye-catching. Now, I just put a question mark about this. She wore a tongue tie on her debut, and that's the only negative I've got about this particular race and about her. I really like her. I think she's potentially very smart, but why the tongue tie? Has she got a little issue? That's just something to bear in mind going forward. Collateral students, plenty of you out there, collateral students, you won't be excited because it wasn't a particularly good race. Chicago Blackhawk was favourite, and that's an exposed horse, and she didn't really beat much here, but that doesn't matter. Just don't worry about what she beat. Look at how she did it. And finally, barrier trials, very useful tool for punters. If you've not come across them, I'll give you the site to go to again. It's the Irish Thoroughbred Marketing YouTube page. All the barrier trials can be found there. A very useful guide for punters, and it certainly was with River Eden. From Dundalk on Monday to Hamilton on Thursday afternoon. Some good racing at Hamilton this week. I'm going to pinpoint the 3 o'clock, which was a mile handicap, slightly further than that, an extra 68 yards on top of the mile. The ground was quick, and Gainsbourg was the odds-on favourite, 8 to 15. Imperial 8 was quite well found in the market, 7 to 1 from 9s. Star Shakira 8 to 1, 12s, and bigger the rest. On the face of it, it wasn't a particularly strong race, but Ed Bethel, who's making a real splash in the training world, sent one runner to Hamilton, and it was the winner, Gainsbourg. Now, I've picked this race out because I think that there are possibly some horses to follow out of it. In particular, the horse that finished second in Imperial 8, and Telly Red as well might be an interesting horse for handicaps going forward. Let's send them on their way then. This is round the loop, of course, over 1 mile, and Gainsbourg was always prominent. He jumped pretty keenly, and then he got a nice lead, sat in second here, just in there, and he got a perfect trip through this race, which wasn't that strongly run, so it paid to be quite handy and up front. The runner-up is behind him on the rail, travelling quite strongly through the race, and I think is a tad unlucky, and he's definitely a horse to follow. Imperial 8, the name, but Gainsbourg just had a little bit too much experience for the filly in behind in second place, and he put that to very good use. He travels strongly, he's really close to the pace, and he's going very nicely at this stage. Telly Red is out the back. I mentioned that horse at the top, is trained by Carl Burke, and he comes home quite strongly. If you look at the course track sectionals, got quite an impressive finish in him, and he's one to keep an eye on. He fired 4 sub-12 second furlongs from the back of the field. That's pretty good, but he could never get involved because the steady pace that they went meant that you needed to be handy. And how do we know it was steady? There you go, there's your finishing speed percentage, 104.64. What does that mean? Finished off 4.64% quicker the final 3 furlongs than they ran the rest of the race. So they were quickening up. Now let's take that out and highlight this filly in behind. She's really stuck at this stage. They're trying to get a run. There she is. And she's green as well. Watch when she does get out. She takes a while to pick up. She lugs and she hangs and she doesn't know what to do. But she's closing down Gainsbourg in the closing stages. There you go, look, hampered again. Nowhere to go. Still looking for a bit of room. And she's just not too green to go and take a gap towards the outside there. And she really has to be motivated now to go and pick up. And now she's beginning to learn what it's all about and coming on quite well in the closing stages. Gainsbourg's just got too much smarts, too much experience to call upon. But she's come home really well in the latter stages of the race, having got no sort of run, and she was quite well back too, 7s from 9s. So I think overall you can say that she's a winner waiting to happen. Now it'll have to be quite a modest race, I think. I don't think this was anything particularly special, this particular contest, but I just like her as a tracker horse, a racing TV tracker horse. And put Telly Red in there. It's a horse who's not run very well in bumpers in the past, but the course track sectionals just pointed him to being quite a decent horse, perhaps for handicaps somewhere down the line. But I think the filly in second, she will win a race just like this, perhaps back at Hamilton or somewhere similar in the very near future. But Gainsbourg, 1 runner for Ed Bethel at Hamilton, 1 winner. He's doing really well, this fella. He's a move-up trainer. I describe him as one of these young move-up trainers who get horses going forward and get horses to improve when they get them from other yards or from wherever they get them. And I think he's one of these guys. That's a real good bit of placing from Ed Bethel to get this horse up to Hamilton and to win. Let's just remind you about Imperial 8. That's the name for your racing TV tracker. She's the filly stuck in behind on the rail, behind the grey horse, and took a while to get out and then a while to pick up once she did get out. But she was learning all the time. Telly Red as well, stick him in, racing TV tracker as well. He's fired sub 12 second furlongs, but he was poorly positioned in the race, and handicaps await for him and he might be able to pick one up. So it's a modest contest, but I think we're going to see a few winners out of it. Gainsborough will go well again. Ed Bethel's got him going forward now, so there might be more to come from him. But definitely the runner-up, that's the one to take out of this race. That was a good race, wasn't it, at Hamilton Park? It was a good few days racing at Hamilton throughout the week, but that's thrown up a couple of horses to keep a close eye on. There was some good racing at Leicester on Thursday, and I think we've seen a potentially smart sprinter. The name of the horse is The Attorney, and he ran over 7 furlongs in the 3:53 at Leicester on Thursday on quick ground, and he was the 85-40 favourite. Darjan was 7-2, he finished second, and Fangorn was 7-2 as well, quite well backed. He didn't make the frame, but Double Dealing did. He was back in 3rd place. I think this is quite a good little race, and it was certainly strongly run. No doubt about that. Let's send them on the way. Now, you're watching stall 5 for The Attorney, and one of the reasons I've picked this race out is because I think this is just about the best ride of the week. A brilliant ride from William Buick, who's going all guns blazing for the Jockeys Championship, and Oisin Murphy, of course, is going very well too at the moment. Now, why is this such a good ride? Well, this horse, The Attorney, is not necessarily that easy. I think he's quite tricky. When he ran here on his previous start, he made a premature move into a hot pace over on the far side and got tired and just weakened out of it. But here, William Buick, now just watch his body language. He doesn't want to deliver him to the last possible minute. He tries to hang on to him for as long as possible. But also, he got a race that was run to suit. We know that from how quickly they finished off. 97.13%. You'd expect it to be around about 100. So they're getting tired. They've gone quite a strong gallop, and it's played into the hands of The Attorney, but Buick still has to deliver him right. And here, he's looking for cover. They're spread out a little bit, and the trouble is, this horse is going to see daylight perhaps too soon, unless Buick can just keep him smuggled up in behind the leaders. Here he is, Buick, just working on him now, but he's not going to deliver him until he really has to. It's very well timed, this by William Buick. Darjan back in second, Double Dealing third. That's a horse who I thought ran a big race, and Marrakesh was in 4th place. We also know that this race was strong because of the 4th and 5th furlongs. Well, they run downhill early on, don't they? And they were fast, 10.9 and 10.99, so they went quite hard in the middle of the race. But it played into his hands, this fella. 35.89 his final 3 furlongs. So even with a strong gallop, he's come home pretty strongly. He's come home well and seen it out nicely. And I think because he's got that speed, a stiff 6 is probably what he wants. Hold up ride over a stiff 6. I think that's really going to suit him. And he's going forward now for the Charlie Hills team. But just watch Buick here. Not going to go yet. Not going to go yet. Wait. And then the leader's got a target on his back, and then Buick decides to go now. It's still his body language. He didn't really want to go for his whip to the last possible minute. And then he picks him up, and he was always going to get there thereafter. He doesn't necessarily have a great head carriage, this fella, but I don't think he did a lot wrong there. And I think a stiff 6 in a decent race, perhaps a decent little handicap, is certainly within his scope. Of the others, well, Darjan, yeah, he ran well. He ran around a little bit in the closing stages. Possibly didn't quite get home, but he'd gone hard early on. Double Dealing back in third has run perfectly respectably. He came home quite strongly in the race in behind. But this is all about The Attorney. There's Buick, still not going for everything, just trying to keep hold of his head, trying to keep the reins tight and keep hold of him. And you just got the impression that he knew he was going to get there. He always knew he was going to get up. This is a man riding with plenty of confidence at the moment. And the figures, the numbers, including the final time of 1:23.99, tell us that this is a decent race. Some winners will come out of it, but The Attorney, I think he's a sprinter that we should keep an eye on. So it was a strong pace, and it was an excellent ride. I'm putting it up there with one of the best rides of the week, I think, from William Buick. There we go, fast 3 furlongs at the end of the race for this winner, The Attorney, 35.89. That's impressive given the pace that they went. Furlongs 4 and 5, as I mentioned, very strong, very strong. That tells us how quick they were going in the last part of the race. 10.9 and 10.99 for the winner. He's not a slow horse. And perhaps a strongly run 6 will be ideal for him in the future. He obviously stays 7. It's an uphill finish at Leicester. He obviously stays 7, but the numbers tell us that he's got loads and loads of speed. Is he a useful sprinter? I think he is. I really think he could be pretty well handicapped. He won that off an official mark of 80. I think he's a 95 plus horse, the Attorney. Well worth keeping a close eye on, as is that race. It's a strong one. We return to Hamilton now, and Friday night they staged a tremendous card, including the Scottish Stewards Cup Sprint. This is how they bet for it. It looked like a very good race on paper. Mr. Wagyu's had a fantastic season, was the 9-2 favourite, backed in from 11-2. Comanche Falls was in there at 5-1, 6-1 Rathbone, Music Society 13-2, Pause for Thought 15-2, 9s and bigger. The rest, and it was from stall 5, Comanche Falls, who got the perfect setup and won this race in good style. Let's have a look and see exactly how Comanche Falls did it. Watch stall 5, Music Society from stall 6, worthy of keeping an eye on because Music Society was a little bit unlucky. We'll pick that out in the run in a moment or two. This is a very strongly run race. I think they went a good even gallop. The finishing speed percentage tells us that they went absolutely spot on in terms of trying to run a good overall time. And look at that, 34.46 for Comanche Falls. Now they go quick down the hill here, as we know, and often horses don't finish off that strongly. So Comanche Falls has come home really well in what was a tight finish with Music Society. And you can see a lot of them are off the bridle at a very early stage, including the winner, Comanche Falls, who's just being niggled along in behind in the green colours with the red sleeves. But this horse gets this trip really well and stays on too strongly for all the rivals. Here's Comanche Falls just about to make a run, just about to try and get involved, and he's got a nice split between horses. Following that one through in here is Music Society, who had to switch from the rail and is looking for a way out and is possibly a bit unlucky given how narrow the margin is at the line, which we'll see in a moment or two. There you go, look, Music Society still looking for a run in the blue colours, now going wide for one. That was a momentum stopping move really, and I think that horse is a little bit unlucky in second place. Plenty of horses getting involved now. The pace setters are dropping away, including Mr. Wagyu, who's run really well again in third place against the rail. Staxton running on from the back, bang, right on the line. Comanche Falls just clings on. This is a 4-year-old sprinter trained by Michael Dodds, and I think would be of some interest in the Stewards Cup itself. It's a good one if they decide to have a crack at that, because this is a strong race, but it was set up perfectly for him. He's a horse who doesn't travel that strongly but finishes well, so he's always going to need a really good gallop, and I think there'll be more to come from him when he gets that. Finishing speed percentage 100.45, so that's an optimum really at Hamilton, I think, over this trip. So they've run a good overall time because of that, a good honest pace, won by a horse who got the trip very well. The second, for me, pretty unlucky, having to switch from the rail, look for a run, not get a smooth run, as George Baker always talks about here on Racing TV. You want to get a smooth run, you don't want to be stopped in your run, and he was stopped a few times, so I think he was a little bit unlucky. Equiana Springs is a horse right out the back. Well, he completely fluffed the start, so we can forgive him that. Look at Staxton, he's in the yellow colours on the rail. He runs on pretty well in the closing stages and grabs 4th place. He likes York, so that might be the place for him to go. But overall, I think form to be positive about. Music Society, the moral winner, I think. I don't think that's being unfair on Comanche Falls. 3rd and 4th furlongs are generally the fastest in sprints at Hamilton, and they certainly were here. They flew through the 3rd and 4th furlongs down the hill and then slowed up a little bit in the closing stages. The fastest final furlong, as you might have guessed really watching it, was Music Society, who ran a 12.38 trying to get past Comanche Falls, which couldn't quite get there. Evenly run, finishing speed percentage we've highlighted 100.45, and if you have an evenly run race that begets a good final time, and that's exactly what they got here. Interest for the Stewards Cup? I think so. I think he's got to go there really, got a chance, and he's only for the winner, and there's going to be more to come, I think. He's just finding his way. Michael Dodds will get him going forward from this, and he's won a very strong sprint here. The race will provide winners going forward. I think that's absolute certainty. Some of these horses like Staxton, he looks like he's ready to win. Music Society looks ready to win as well. It's worthy of plenty of review, this race, and Mr. Wagyu gives the form a very strong look because he's been in cracking form this season. So he makes the form look strong. That was a good Scottish Stewards Cup sprint. It is my opinion that one of the best horses that we saw all week ran at Newbury on Saturday in the Bet365 Stakes, as it's known now. It used to be the Steventon Stakes, its listed status, and this race was over 1.25 miles. The favourite was Real World. He was the winner as well, and I think he is a very good horse indeed. Derab was a 2-to-1 shot, quite well backed. He finished in second place, and Solid Stone, it was 9-to-1, bit of a drifter. He was back in third. Why do I think this horse is very good? Well, we already know that he's pretty decent. He won the Royal Hunt Cup, you remember, over on the far side when everybody thought you had to be stand side at Ascot on the straight course, and he bolted up in that. Here, stepped up in trip to 1.25 miles. Watch him jump from stall 2 in the Godolphin Blue. He's trained by Saeed bin Saror, and this race was not really run to suit him. Let's have a look and see what happens. Basically, for the eye, it looked like they went a pretty good even gallop, but they didn't. They went quite steady here, and this horse has overcome trouble to win this race in grand style. Solid Stone, the horse that's taking them along. Now, he's a bit keen, Real World. Remember, he ran it 1 mile last time, and he's got lots and lots of speed. He's a bit sweaty down his neck, and he's just wanting to do a bit too much in the early stages. Move in time, the horse in the yellow on the outside, just keeping him in a little bit. And then Derab is just edging into 4th place here. Derab eventually finishes in 2nd, and he's a half-brother to Enable Derab, and he's a very good, smart sort in his own right. But I think this winner is very good. For me, this is a very impressive performance. Now, the gallop was pretty steady. The finishing speed percentage, 110.8. They've crawled and sprinted, and they come home 10.8% quicker than they ran the rest of the race. To the eye, it looks even, doesn't it? But it's not. It's pretty steady for horses of this quality. So watch this horse pick up in the closing stages. That's what's really impressive about him. It beggars the question about trip for him, because I think he's fast. I think he's got a load of speed, and his final 3 furlongs, 33.7. Wow, that's pretty quick. And he might be a horse who wants to return to 1 mile where he can really flash that speed. Now, there's trouble for him here. Tactically, he's in a desperate spot. He's stuck in the rail there. Derab's moved up to the outside. Here's Derab. He's moved up to the outside, and he's keeping him in. He wants to hold him in. It's Martin Harley on Derab for John and Thady Gosden, and he's looking to keep Marco Ghiani on Real World in that little pocket. So Derab's not going to kick yet. He's going to sit and keep him stuck in there. They're not going to stop necessarily in front because they've not gone quick. So Real World is in a heap of trouble now. Where can he go? What can he do? What he can do is flash that final 3 furlongs once he gets out, and he flies. 33.7, that is quick. Now he's looking to go. Derab's decided to go for home, and that gives him an out. It means that he can switch. Now just watch this horse pick up. It doesn't look likely for a stride or two. Derab looks like he's going to win. If I tell you, this Real World wins by 1.5 lengths in the end. That's how well he picked up. Hampered in a steadily run affair where a very useful rival got first run on him, and he's picked up and run that horse down in cold blood. That was very impressive for me. I think he's miles better than the bare result. So my enthusiasm therefore begs the question, what next for this fella? Where is he going to go? Well, he's in the Lennox, and he's in the Golden Mile Handicap, a Class 2 at Goodwood. He's also in the Celebration Mile later this year. I think he's worthy of that sort of race. Steadily run race, as I mentioned, 110.83, got him in trouble, but he's fast. When he got out, 33.7, took him home, and he flew past Derab, who is useful. I think the front 2 are really good. He might just be best at a mile, strongly run mile, where he can really flash that speed. I think would be what he wants. I'm not sure about a strongly run 10. If he got it, he might be vulnerable then. 3 entries at Goodwood. As I mentioned, those entries that I don't know where they're going to go with him. I think they're just going to see how he is, and Goodwood might just come a little bit too quick for him. But I think he's one of the best horses that we saw all week. Indeed, one of the best horses we've seen this season. We saved the best till last. The Irish Oaks at the Curragh on Saturday afternoon. Snowfall, winner of the English version, of course, was the long odds-on favourite at 2-7. Willow 15-2, Nicest to 10-1. A race dominated by Aidan O'Brien runners, and Snowfall did not let anybody down with a most impressive performance. Let's have a look at the race in its entirety. She's a brilliant filly. It's quite simply brilliant, I think. She was breathtaking when she won at Epsom. Some thought it was a it was a bit of a soft ground fluke and the race fell apart around her. I don't go with that. She won 13 odd lengths at Epsom and was hugely impressive to my mind. I know she got the stands rail, but she'd have won wherever she'd gone. It was a falsely run race at Epsom. It was a bit stop-start, the Oaks, and she was still able to win 13 lengths. Well, here, this is a much more honestly run race than the Epsom Oaks. They went a good, even gallop for a final time of 2:34.36, which is a pretty good time over a mile and a half at the Curragh. And she's won by 8.5 lengths, ultimately. That is the widest winning margin of any Irish Oaks that has ever been run. And people might crab her. She's beaten the similar rivals that she beat at Epsom. For example, Divinely, who finishes second, she was a long way behind her at Epsom. But this is a more evenly run race, and I think this is just as impressive as Epsom. She goes through this race like a dream under Ryan Moore against the rail. She's travelling strongly throughout, and when she comes to challenge, she picks up in tremendous fashion. She's got a great turn of foot, this filly. And she's just about the best around. I think that it's hard to crab her in any way whatsoever. That it might not have been a great race. Some horses have maybe shied away, didn't want to take on Snowfall, but I just think she's incredibly good. She's by Deep Impact out of a Galileo mare, and she's proved here that she'll handle decent ground as well. So she's proving incredibly versatile. She was very good on the soft under Dettori at Epsom, and now on decent ground she's just as good as well. Ryan Moore's just beginning to just niggle there, and I don't think it was because he was worried. I think he just wanted to get a position. He just wanted to make sure he was going to be in a posse where he'd get an out and he wouldn't get stuck in and get held in. Just there, just niggling there. And now she comes good again. She comes back on the bridle, and now he knows he's probably going to get an out now. And there she is. She picks the bridle up again as soon as she sees daylight. So Ryan had just niggled her just to wake her up and to grab that gap. And now she saunters clear of her rivals. La Jaconde, who made the pace, dropping away. In second place, it'll be Divinely towards the outside, who runs on to grab second. She's a strong staying filly. She probably wants a little bit further. Nicest back in third. Willow back in fourth place. 1, 2, 3, 4 for Aidan. And just look at this filly surge clear of her rivals. And Ryan's just going through the motions, isn't he? He's not doing a right lot on her. He's just nudging her out, hands and heels, and she could have won by further if he'd really gone for her. So, you know, we've got a filly here who's won 2 Oaks. She's won 13 odd lengths. She's won 8 and a bit lengths here. She's absolutely brilliant, isn't she? She's got to be right up there with the best that we're going to see later in the season. Where's she going to go? Yorkshire Oaks, possibly. I think we might see her there, and I think we'll definitely see her in the Arc de Triomphe, I would have thought, given what ground conditions might be like. So there you go, impressive win in a fast time, 2:34.36 winning time. Could have been quicker though. She handles any ground. She's proved her versatility now. She won here on good ground. We know what Epsom was like, pretty soft that day when she won the Oaks. So she's very versatile. It doesn't matter what ground she's going to encounter. She's going to be very hard to beat. She gets all the allowances in the Arc, of course. You know, she's a 3-year-old, she's a filly, so she gets those allowances. And the Arc market, well, loves favourites, so she might not get her ground if she comes out. And her price for the Arc at the moment, Snowfalls, might look pretty good. 6 Group 1 races, July to September, are her entries, but I think she'll stick to fighting the fillies at York and then possibly go to the Arc after that. But that's up to Aidan and the lads. 4-1 for the Arc. I think that's a good price. I really do, because Love might not get her ground. She wants decent ground, and if she doesn't run, this filly's not going to be 4-1. Brilliant quote from Aidan O'Brien. I like to finish on this. Genetics kick in when you get an even gallop. I thought that was a superb quote from Aidan O'Brien. She's got a beautiful pedigree. She's got a great mind, and that serves her really well when they go hard in races. She's absolutely brilliant. The Arc is hers for the taking.